Yo, Grand Rising, everybody. How you doing? This is your Coach Renz, and welcome to Deconstructing from Christianity with Coach Renz on Wednesday. Our Wednesday live, of course, is what is wrong with the Bible. We are continuing this study for our deconstruction purposes, and we're in the chapter of Joshua 11 and 12. It's all right chapter. You got some lies in it, of course, and we will go over some of those lies that it tells. Give about 5 minutes for people to get on, and then we get started with the show. Got to get my cigar ready. Got everything else ready. Started a few minutes late. Having a late. Had to finish dinner. Hopefully everybody is doing well, all safe and warm wherever you are. We are streaming live both on Facebook and on the YouTube. So if you don't mind, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Of course, I would like to thank, good evening, Teresa. I would like to thank all of my subscription holders on Facebook, members on YouTube who support the channel through their memberships and subscriptions, and everyone who also supports the channel directly right now through Cash App. Thank you very, very much as we continue this journey. Twins! What's up, twins? So Joshua, what are we doing? 11 and 12 today. Get that up here before I forget. A little bit interesting. Got a couple of things in it that we are going to be able to see are not actual factual things that happen. Grand Rising Renee, how you doing? Renee, sister wife. Just laughed. You know I'm gonna ride that joke for a while, Renee. I'm gonna ride that one for a minute as we go through our deconstruction. Had a pretty nice day here in San Antonio. We got about 71 degrees. Am I on TikTok? Not live. I don't do lives on TikTok because TikTok constantly cancels my lives on TikTok. And I got fed up with TikTok and canceling my lives all the time. Um, Cold here. I forgot where you say you were. Where are you, Renee? Yeah, but TikTok cancels my lives all the time, so I got tired of TikTok and I just said no, I'm not going through that anymore. Dealing with them. Oh, North Carolina. There was a part of me that wanted TikTok to go away. There was a part of me that didn't, but part of me wanted it to go away because I find TikTok to be frustrating when it comes to live and its censorships and this how it allows trolls to control your your information. Snow in Maryland. One of the reasons why I would never live there in Maryland. Almost though. I almost lived in Maryland at a time. When I was an IT guy, I was going to take a job in Maryland. I'm glad that I didn't. Glad that I didn't take that one. I would not have been happy living in Maryland. Probably would have lived in, wouldn't have lived in Maryland though. I've been working in DC, so. Mm-mm. It's not lit all the way. Got to get an even burn going. So we're about 20 seconds from getting started with this lesson in reading. Can I do a, oh, What part of Texas, Teresa? I love to meet people who follow the channel. So, where about in Texas? I mean, where about in Texas are you going? After we finish the reading part, I will do. We open up the channels for call-ins. Can you do a video on Ezekiel and the eating/cooking over feces? I remember some of that. Let me put that in here. Let me write that down. Over feces. All right. We'll see. Oh. Whoo! El Paso. That is 9 hours. That's about 8 hours away from me. That is about 8 hours from San Antonio. Well, if you can hold on to the show, SV, for a little while, we will get to the part where we open up the channel for people to talk about any and everything. So so with that, let's go ahead and get started with this reading of Ezekiel. Damn, you got me saying Ezekiel. Oh, you got family and friends in San Antonio? Then you need to come on to San Antonio. What you going to El Paso for? Ain't nothing in El Paso. It's just dust and mountains and Juarez. Oh, if you was with us last week on last Wednesday, when we went over Joshua 9 and 10, you saw that there were aspects of Joshua 9 and 10 that just don't add up to history as we know it. And we're going to see some of those things continue in this chapter. We saw the genocidal nature, and we're going to see some more of that in this chapter of the genocidal nature of what they wrote. Are you near a truck stop? What the hell? Am I near a truck stop? I don't even know how to respond to that. I'm 45 minutes from a Buc-ee's. All right, let's get started on this chapter. And I still see your questions. I will stop and answer questions that are as we go through this part. So to continue our reading, when Jabin, king of Hazor, heard of this, and what he's hearing of is how they went and killed these 5 Amorite kings during the time frame of Joshua, right? So the Amorite kings, we know that this didn't happen. We know that the Amorites were not conquered by the Israelites, and that they were absorbed into the Assyrians and Babylonians when their kingdom began to falter in around 1600 BCE. So there would not have been Amorites in order for Joshua to conquer at this time frame, not in the way that they are describing them in this particular manner. So if they would have been conquering them at this time frame, the Levant, this area was controlled by Egypt. And so with them being controlled by Egypt, they would have been then disrupting the Egyptian kingdom of these vassal states. So we know it didn't happen. So what Jabin heard of was absolutely nothing. It's just them describing something, taking this story to gratify themselves and creating their own history based on what they knew about kingdoms that had been destroyed literally 1,000 years prior to the writing of this, because all of this was written somewhere between 500 and 300 BCE. So when Jabin, king of Hazor, heard of this, he sent word to Jobab, king of Madon, to kings of Shimron and Ashapal, and to the northern kingdoms who were in the mountains in the Ashapal south and Kinnereth, in the western foothills, and in Naphoth Dor on the west, and the Canaanites in the east and west, to the Amorite, Hittites, Perizzites, and Jebusites in the hill country, and to the Hivites below Hermon in the region of Mizpah. They came out with all their troops in large numbers of horses and chariots, a huge army, as numerous as the sands on the shore. We know that's hyperbole. All the kings joined forces and made camp together at the waters of Merom to fight against the Israels. Fight against Israel. The Lord said to Joshua, "Do not be afraid of them, because by this time tomorrow, I will hand all of them over, slain, over to Israel. You are to hamstring their horses and burn their chariots." So, like I said, these stories are being written to give these people some type of glory, um, most likely during the Hasmonean dynasty, so that they can feel like they were doing something, or right after the Persians had released them. So from that time frame of being released by the Persians, being conquered by the Greeks, and into the Hasmonean dynasty, they are creating this illusion that Joshua was created this conquering nation of Israel. So Joshua and his whole army came against them suddenly at the waters of Merom and attacked them, and the Lord gave them into the hands of Israel. They defeated them and pursued them all the way to Greater Sidon, to Mesrephoth, Maim, and to the valley of Mizpah on the east, until no survivors were left. Joshua did to them as the Lord has directed. He hamstringed their horses and burned their chariots, or as they call it, rat. So total war here. They killing everybody. It's the genocide. And of course, this is an offense to our sensibilities in today, which is one of those reasons why we have more morality than this God, because we wouldn't do this in today's time. At that time, to continue, at that time, Joshua turned back and captured Hazor and put its kings to the sword. Hazor had been, and this is in parentheses, um, Hazor had been the head of all the kingdoms. So this is just something that the scribes added later. Everyone in it, they put to the sword. They totally destroyed them, not sparing anyone that breathed, and he burned Hazor itself. So of course, putting everyone to the sword, anything that breathed, means they killed all the men, all the women, all the children, all the old people, and all the animals. So this time frame, now warfare at that time frame was more violent than what we do today. And for someone to go in and totally decimate an entire region of people wasn't unheard of. But this is supposed to be this God of love. And instead of converting those people over into him, he rather killed them so that he would keep the same genetic material rotating with these Israelite people. But as we said, none of this can be validated by history. Actually, history tells a different story. So to continue in verse 12, Joshua took all the royal cities and their kings and put them to the sword. He totally destroyed them as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded. Yet Israel did not burn any of the cities built on their mounds except Hazor, which Joshua burned. The Israelites carried off for them all the plunder and livestock of these cities, but all the people they had put to the sword until they completely destroyed them, not sparing anyone that breathed. So again, killing all the men, the women, the children, the old people. As the Lord commanded his servant Moses, so Moses commanded Joshua, and Joshua did it. He left nothing undone of all that the Lord had commanded Moses. Now, as we read through this, understand that they're not saying Moses commanded him right then at that moment. Moses is not there. But Moses had commanded him to listen to the words of the Lord and to do the exact same thing that he had been doing throughout all his conquests. There are some scholastic argument over 11 and 12 that they are being written by different authors, not being written by the same author, simply because of the language, but also some of the mistakes that they're going to have as we get through some of this a little bit later on, of how certain things are claimed during the time frame of Joshua, but yet those things didn't actually happen again until they get to the time frame of David, and David makes a different statement concerning some of it. So when you see some of these differences, it's because most scholars think that it's been written by two different people at two different time frames. This is why I say this book is being written and edited and re-edited over like a 200-300 year time frame. In verse 16. So Joshua took this entire land, the hill country, all Negev, the whole region of Goshen, the western foothills, the Abra, and the mountains of Israel with its foothills, from Mount Halak, which rises towards the Seir, to Baal Gad in the valley of Lebanon below Mount Hermon. He captured all the kings and put them to death. Joshua waged war against all these kings for a long time, except for the Hivites living in Gibeon, because remember he made this deal with the Gibeonite people, which was against what he was supposed to be able to do. Thank you for sharing the session, Raph, which was against what he was supposed to do. He wasn't supposed to make any covenants with anyone, but he was tricked by the Gibeonites to make one. So they're at least staying focused on the fact that he didn't destroy those people. But not one city made a treaty of peace with the Israelites, who took them all in battle, except for the Gibeonites. For it was the Lord himself who hardened their hearts to wage war against Israel, so that he might destroy them totally, exterminating them without mercy, as the Lord had commanded him. So if these people did want to make peace with Israel, once again, just as this God did with the Pharaoh in Egypt, he hardened the hearts of these people so that they will be unwilling to make peace with the Israelites, because he wanted all these people to be exterminated. And so I hate to put it this way, but when we look at people like that German guy, his mindset of extermination is solidified and supported by this God. So tell me again how this God is good when he's exterminating everybody, and he is taking away people's free will to choose whether or not they want to be in league with Israel and make peace or not. And exactly, John. John said, how is that free will? It is not free will when this God hardens your heart so that you won't. So to finish this chapter in verse 21 through 23, at that time Joshua went and destroyed the Ammonites from the hill country, from Hebron, Debir, and Ahab, from all the hill country of Judah, and from all the hill country of Israel. Joshua totally destroyed them and their towns. No Ammonites were left in Israelite territory. Only in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod did they survive. So they were told to destroy everyone, but yet some people still survive. So this goes against what this God actually wanted, because he wanted everyone to be dead. Now, the reason why the writers are saying this is because during the time frame of the Babylonian captivity, these people still existed within these territories under Babylonian control. And so since they were still in existence, the Bible writers had to make an allotment for them. Verse 23, so Joshua took the entire land, just as the Lord had directed Moses, and he gave it as an inheritance to Israel according to their tribal divisions. Then the land had rest from war. So after he went on this destruction, he was able to lay down his sword and rest, because now the land was resting from war, because he had destroyed everybody. Like, if you don't see it yet, this is part of how they get the idea that there was this unified, united Israelite kingdom at one point, and it was initially started by somewhat Moses, but mostly by Joshua. But you don't get to the full realization of it until you get to David. But we're going to see how getting to that full realization under David goes against what is saying that he conquered, that Joshua actually conquered. And we're going to see that in chapter 12, which we're about to start. Some of it's going to be a little bit boring. It's well repetitive, I should say. It's not that long of a chapter, but it does have a lot of repetition. But exactly, Debbie. How can anyone say that this is a good God when we have a higher morality today than that God had during his time frame of walking around with these people? It just doesn't make sense. Oh, hit the wrong button. All right, so to continue in chapter 12. See, I told you this one was going to go pretty quick. Chapter 12. These are the kings of the land whom the Israelites had defeated and whose territory they took over east, they took over east of Jordan, from the Arnon Gorge to Mount Hermon, including all the eastern sides of Araba. Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon. He ruled from Aor to the rim of the Arnon Gorge. From the middle of the gorge, he took the Jabbok River, which is the border of the Ammonites. This includes half of Gilead, as he also ruled over the eastern Abba and the Sea of Galilee. To the Sea of Arba, this is the Dead Sea. That's inputted in there. So the Dead Sea used to be called the Sea of Arba. To Beth Jeshimoth, and then southward below the slopes of Pisgah. And the territory of King Og, king of Bashan, one of the last of the Rephaites, who reigned in Asheroth and Idiri. He ruled over Mount Hermon, Shalaka, all of Bashan, to the border of the people of Gesher and Makkah, and half of Gilead, and to the border of Sihon, king of Heshbon. Moses, the servant of the Lord, and the Israelites conquered them. And Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave their lands to the Reubenites and the Gadites and half the tribe of the Manasseh as their possession. If you remember that when the Reubenites and the Gadites and half of the tribe of Manasseh didn't want to go into the promised land, they were like, we good here. Can we just have this piece of land right here? So that's why they're just restating that part. And this is one of the reasons why, that's another one of the reasons why they think this has been written by different authors, because they're mixing in Joshua's conquest with Moses' conquest as if they're telling the story, because all of this was oral tradition until we get to the Babylonian captivity and thereafter. The longer part, the part that is very repetitive, the part that I'm gonna mess up a bunch of names. Here's the list of kings. Here's the list of kings of the lands that Joshua and the Israelites conquered on the west side of Jordan, from Baal-Gad in the valley of Lebanon to Mount Halak, which rises towards Seir. Joshua gave their lands as an inheritance to the tribes of Israel according to their tribal divisions. The lands included the hill country, the western foothills, the Arba, the mountain slopes, the wilderness of Negev. These are the lands of the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. These were their kings. All right, this is going to be a long list, but there's a couple in here. Let me see where it's at. Make sure so I can pause at them if I see them. Okay. So, the king of Jericho, the king of Jericho, 1. The king of Ai near Bethel, 1. And it has a 1 after each one of these, indicating the number. It's 31. But when you read some of the midrashes will only say either 29 or it's going to say like 27. And one of the reasons why they say that is because of like this next one, the king of Jerusalem, 1. All right, so the problem with the king of Jerusalem is that Joshua never conquered Jerusalem. Jerusalem wasn't conquered until David came along, and that is when Jerusalem was conquered. So this is one that in some of the midrashes, it's left out. They don't state Jerusalem. As we go through this list, when we get to, you say Ai is near Bethel, but when we get to Bethel, Bethel is another one of those that wasn't conquered until much later after Joshua had died. So the midrashes kind of go against this and correct it, because they knew that at that time frame that they have where David conquered these places and they were not conquered by Joshua. So they're mixing in some of the conquering of David and the conquering of Moses and the conquering of Joshua, but they're putting this all on Joshua, even though some of this we know was done according to this book. by Moses and then David. So we know that's a problem. That's problematic. The king of Heshbon won. The king of Jarmuth won. The king of Lachish won. The king of Elagon won. The king of Gezer won. The king of the Beer won. The king of Jadir won. The king of Harmath won. The king of Arad won. The king of Libnah won. The king of Adullam won. The king of Makeda won. The king of Bethel, which he did not conquer, won. The king of Tapua won. The king of Heper won. The king of Apik won. The king of Lasharon won. The king of Madam won. The king of Hazel won. The king of Sherman won. Sharon won. The king of Asphah won. The king of Tanakh won. The king of Megiddo won. The king of Kadesh won. The king of Jokanim in Carmel won. The king of Dior in Napor Dior won. The king of Goyim in Galid won. And the kingdom of Goyim, they actually have absolutely no idea where this kingdom of the king of Goyim and in Galad was, in Gilgal was. There's no historical data. There's no ancient data on where the kingdom of Goyim was. So that's another one, which is why some of them list all the way down to only 27 instead of 31. The king of Tirzah won. 31 kings in all, according to this story. But like I said, historically and archaeologically, at best you get 27, at best, right? And it flies in the face of the contradictions of it was David who ended up conquering at Bethel, conquering at Jerusalem. So that automatically knocks it down to 29. And then some of these other places like Goyim, you can't find. There's no history on it. Even at the time frame of the writing, they had no idea of where these places were. And to this day, we still have no idea of where these places were. These were all just stories and that was the end of that chapter, I believe. These are all just stories that these people put out, trying to make themselves seem greater. But like I said, there's no historicity to it. And if Joshua was doing this in around 1280 time frame, this area was controlled by the Egyptians. So they would have been conquering Egyptian land, and most certainly the Egyptians would have counterattacked, right? And according to the Merneptah Stele, which is 1204, when the Egyptians conquered the Israelite people, they just said they conquered a group of people. It was not a nation that they conquered, but a people who called themselves Israelite. So if that would either you're going to accept the Bible or you're going to accept the Merneptah Stele. It's a choice. But we found the Egyptian history to be more accurate than we find the Israelite history within the Bible. That they could not have conquered all those people and maintained and started some type of kingdom and divided it up to the different tribes. Yet when Pharaoh Merneptah comes in, he talks about the nations of Canaanites and the nations of all these other people that they conquered, but he just called the Israelites a group of people. And that is all that they were. And this was supposed to be them going in and conquering and destroying and genociding all the Canaanite people, when it demonstrates that not all the Canaanite people were destroyed. The Gibeonites were not destroyed, and a few other people were not destroyed because they were still in existence at the time of this writing after the Babylonian captivity. But also, if they had destroyed all the people, well, there were still other people groups that were around in that area, even though they're not Semitic people. But the Phoenicians were still there, but also the Philistines were still there, and other groups of people were still in the Levant during this time frame and after this time frame, and yet none of them were destroyed. So it flies in on its face. It lands on its face, rather, in the fact that it's claiming to have conquered all these Canaanite people, which we'll see even more of the statement of conquering all the Canaanite people next week in the next few chapters, but it's something that just doesn't happen. So if it doesn't happen, but the Bible says it does, which one is correct? Which one do you believe? Why do you bet your life on a book that's supposed to be God's word, but yet demonstrates so many contradictions within that writing and within that word? It doesn't match up, it doesn't work. So you have to choose either one or the other, real history or the fake biblical history. It's a choice. It's a choice, and that's all it comes down to, is that choice. But at no point in time did they conquer all the Canaanites. At no point in time can you validate that any of these kings and kingdoms existed, or either in city states or whatnot. Why is my computer flicking like that? Hello. And then, as I said, as we saw, this God is hardening people's hearts, so he's taking away their free will. This God is also commanding them to kill everyone. Everyone. If you are still a believer in this book and you are listening to this video, I ask the question, how do you claim your God to be a good God if he desires the murdering of children? We can argue left and right, back and forth about, did the Israelites do child sacrifice? We know they did, but even if we argued that point of sacrificing their own children, how can you justify going into someone else's city, destroying them, taking their city, conquering their city, and then killing everyone, including the babies? I can understand if we was only talking about the people who fought against them, but we're talking about killing all the elderly people, all the women, and all the babies. How do you figure? How do you figure he's a good God? How do you stand on that? And that's the biggest thing that I see with this chapter, other than if not fitting into history, that's one thing. But the fact that you are going to support a God who kills babies, wasn't that a big problem in the Vietnam War? Isn't that a big problem in any war where we see people are genociding the children? Wasn't that a problem in Rwanda with children being murdered and killed and women being murdered and killed? That always been a problem. Now, in past society, that was something that people might have done. And because other societies did that, it was okay to write that the Bible God is doing that as well. So people back then wouldn't have had a problem with it. They would have thought it was the moral thing to do. And even Christians today, some of them will say that, well, this God had to go ahead and kill all the children because these kids would have been left without parents. Because if you leave the mothers alive, then the mothers will still teach the children about their gods and still wouldn't worship Yahweh. But if you killed all of them, then you don't have to worry about these children coming up against you. But you also, these children, what would they have been doing? I'm sure God let them into heaven anyway because they were children. This is often the argument that I get from Christians concerning this. But there is never a justification, because if you think about a child, a 3-year-old, a 1-year-old, an infant, if you raise that child to be yours, you're never going, that child is not going to go against you. That child is going to believe in Yahweh. So why wouldn't this God say that we, except for the children of a certain age, where they're still impressionable, that you take them as captives and you teach them your ways and make them into Israelites, right? Because sooner or later, they're probably going to marry another Israelite or something like that. Why wouldn't you do that? That would make you more of a peaceful, loving God. So we need to stop. And Stephanie makes a good point here. It's possible that the reason we have so many problems in this world because we're following the religious books that speaks of violence. And all of them speak of the same violence. The Quran, the Torah, just such violent books. Exactly. A book is just a book until you act on that book. So with that, the reading part, I knew it was going to be simple today, and it was. This God is the genocidal maniac, And most of the stories here do not fit history, and so they shouldn't be taken as history of true history, but just the history that people create for themselves. So I did post the links on both Facebook and YouTube. I know SV said that he has some questions, so the lines are open. Feel like Frazier. Good morning, Seattle. The lines are open. So that was pretty short. And sometimes they're going to be short, sometimes they're long. But just in the shortness of that, just that chapter alone would give me reason to take pause of this book. You're hardening people's hearts so that you can destroy them and kill all their babies. Just that alone is enough to give me enough reason to dive deeper into this book and this God, and why should I continue to worship him? Could you imagine being in the presence of this God and asking those questions? He'd probably come down on you like he did for on Job. Did you create the pillars of the earth? Did you make the whale? I like that is neither here nor there. You killed a whole bunch of babies and authorized people to kill a bunch of babies. You creating the shit don't mean nothing. I'm gonna need more than just you made it. A man and a woman makes a baby. Does that mean that they should be able to do whatever they choose? That when the baby's 3 years old, I'm tired of that baby, I'm gonna get rid of the baby? Come on. We send you to prison for that today. SV, I put the link up there. Click on the link. Where are the religious books that promote helping poor people and healing the sick? To me, it's not even a religion, though. Taoism is more of a philosophy, but you don't find a warlike mentality, a violent mentality in the Tao. From what I've read of the Buddhist writings, you don't find that in the Buddhist writings either. Everything else that I've read, you can find that type of mentality. Now, I'm not saying you should go become a Buddhist or a Taoist. But I look at Buddhism and Taoism as more of a philosophy and not so much a religion, although they do invoke the way or the creative energies of the universe. But yeah, these books have killed and destroyed more lives than they have ever benefited. And I can debate that point infinitum that that is the truth. Me and God would be too busy having a knockout, drag out session. Yeah, he would end eternity if I was there. Cause he'd be like, you know what? I'm sick of this dude. He getting on my damn nerves. He is getting on my nerves. I would be the one to get kicked out of heaven, and then later on stories are told of me being a fallen angel or something. There is the fallen angel Lorenzo. He came to kill and destroy, and is the liar because he went against God. Yep. That's why I say that in order for there to be this heaven, and if this God allowed for you to have free will, he would have to take away your free will to be in this heaven. Because even the most devout believer, once they get there, after a while, there's going to be somebody there, some group of people there that would argue, that would question this God and his morality. And so there would be another war in heaven. So this guy would be making the same mistake he made with the angels if he let us go up there. Sure would. This is a joke, people. I am not picking on someone. Hey, Junie, are we sober today? You had to be here yesterday and saw her comments in order to get that one. I saw all your comments yesterday, Junie. So don't think I was ignoring you or didn't see them. Oh, watching from Houston. I'm in San Antonio. And this is the big thing. In order to follow, you must lead by example. So people who believe in this so-called God can justify the killing of the Bible, because that is the example that this God gives. And if you follow this one, then you will justify all his killing and murdering, just like people have done when they've been in totalitarian states where they justify this stuff. And very well could be. If this God is true, is real, then his bloodlust would be justification for the angels to revolt against him. I ain't even gonna say that. I'm not even gonna say that. Greetings from Australia. Yes, I see the language by which you are using lawnmower man. That's why I haven't put any of your comments up here, trying to get me banned. The struggle has already become hard enough for a content creator with all the changes that these programs have made. But really, the next time you're talking to a Christian, just ask them how can they explain all the genocide that goes on in this Bible, all the baby killing, you know, for them to, and watch them go through their mental gymnastics trying to explain away why this God is justified. Ultimately, they're just going to get to a point where it said, well, it's God and he created everything, so he can do whatever he wants with whatever he created. And even that argument still falls on his face, because just because you create something doesn't give you the right to do whatever you choose with it. You can't create beings of life and then do whatever you want. That is an immoral act, no matter how you think about it. Whether it's there is not subjective at all; it's completely objective. That you create a living thing and then you just murder it for no reason. You can't justify murdering a 1 year old child. You just there's just none. Whether it's through the flood, whether through the flood or through these conquest, these so-called fake conquests of Moses and David and Joshua or anyone else. What's up, 5,000? Nate Dogg in the house. Just hit the east side on the LBC on a mission trying to find Mr. Warren G. But yes, there is so little that you can find right with the Bible that if the Bible was measured on a scale of objective morality, not subjective morality, but just objective morality, the Bible would fall short when it comes to murder in itself. Just all the murderers alone would cause the scales to tip against the Bible. It's just too much murdering. Coming to the
Hey,
stage is Nate Dogg.
what's up, man? You know what somebody put me made me think about the Bible a lot. So he put it like as in almost the Bible's basically like human nature. So basically what they're trying to do is make you kind of like conscious of your animal body, but they're doing it all in the wrong way. So they're giving you a god that you worship, and then you don't have any of your own personal desires. So it takes away your own personal desires, and this God that gives you all that love, so you're not seeking exactly what you desire within your own self. It takes away your individuality. That's what I've learned.
No, I would
Just
agree. If there is no individuality within the Bible, you have to follow suit with this mainstream idea of what this God is. But the problem is, who's right? You know, you got so many denominations and so many disagreements about what this God's intents and what this God's thoughts are. How do you know which one you're supposed to follow?
I don't know, man. That's I don't know. I don't follow any of them anymore. I feel a lot better now when I don't do that. I feel more at peace. You know?
That is what I would say. When a person, there's a certain point in deconstructing from the Bible that almost everybody gets to where they feel at peace without the Bible, and they have more peace without the Bible.
Yeah. When you stop worrying about other salvation or your own salvation, that comes off your shoulders, and you have complete relief from it. It
Yeah.
actually is really good for you. Yeah. It's well, you know that I practice Buddhism, so that I do an hour and almost 40 minutes a day of meditation. So
Yeah, I
I'm
remember.
doing it. Yeah, that's what I wanted to come on because somebody talked about that, and then it made me have like a thought about it. I was like, all right, so basically, within meditation, you become aware within yourself, and Christianity is about following, and really, you're not. You don't even know who you are. You're just this unaware kind of like animal, they give you like this whole reasoning, oh, I'm God, or this is the God that I chose, so now I'm righteous enough and I'm
Right.
gonna go kill you now because but in reality that's animal nature too, right? Because animals kill each other, right? In order for it to be like this, like yin and yang, right? So if the wolf is the prey, and if there's no wolves to kill the deer, so they'll kill all the vegetation. So what is this called? It's called the path to hell with good intentions. That's what it is
Mhm.
called.
The path
Yeah,
of what?
the path to hell with good intentions.
Okay, right.
So basically, I'm unaware, so I'm gonna kill all the wolves because I'm unaware what that might do to the actual structure of how things will work, and my unawareness actually condemns everybody on Earth because now the deer eats all the vegetation.
Exactly. And people don't like when you see those animal videos when it's like the predator is getting prey and people are like, "Oh, why didn't you help the squirrel?" I just saw one recently with a squirrel and a snake. Why didn't you just help the squirrel instead of just filming it? Well, the snake got to eat too. And if you kill all the snakes, then we'll be overran by rats. And then
Yeah,
people will complain about the rats.
yeah,
So there's a
yeah,
balance. The thing about the animal nature is that the animal nature creates a balance within the ecosystem. And these religious books certainly have us out of balance with nature, you know. And
yeah,
we have to come into balance of that and recognize we just we consume our fair share, never to deprive the entire ecosystem of what it has to offer so that this balance cycle maintains itself.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking that so I was thinking, man, the Bible is just basically like human nature, animal nature, because now I'm God's chosen, so I'm gonna go kill that. I'm gonna go kill them
Yeah.
because it's God's law, right? Immorality, correct? God's law. So now I am more righteous and right than you are. So I am correct, not you.
Right. And then you must follow me or I'm gonna kill you.
That's right. Yeah, they placed the fear in you. Yeah, and
And
that's what. So I tried to pray the other day, right? So I figured this out. I told my brother I'm gonna try to pray my rosary again, and I did a little bit. I prayed like I think three mysteries, and then I was anxious. I was like, I called my brother. I go, I feel anxious after that. He's like, it's because you're outgrowing it, man. It's time to let it go.
yeah, to hold on to it is going to keep you out of balance because Buddhism and Christianity do not meld together well at all.
No, I know, I know that now. Yeah.
So yeah, so you honestly, and I'm not telling you which one to pick, but you got to pick one. Pick one and stick to it. Because if you keep going back and forth, really that's just that attachment that you grew up with that Christianity that makes you go back and forth. You have so choose a path. And obviously Christianity, based on what you said so far, is not the pathway that's going to keep you in a peaceful nature, a peaceful situation within yourself.
Well, the thing is, in religion, you'll never face your dark shadows. You'll never face your unconsciousness. You'll never face it and make it conscious. They just tell you it's a demon, and you'll never face your own, and you'll never take accountability. Within Buddhism, you literally face things in your meditation. You face it, and you don't even use mantras. You just breathe through it. That's the shadow work I've done for myself, and I'm really calm, man. Like night and day, man, night and day.
Yeah, and really, if you don't face that shadow self, as Carl Jung coined it, you will eventually, when you go through samsara, you will fail. You will never reach the Buddha mind.
Yeah. Did you know Carl Jung's father was a preacher, Christian
No, I
preacher?
had no
Yeah,
idea.
yeah. He would always complain in the Red Book. He would always complain about it. He would always complain about Christianity. He's like, "You stole that from me. You stole that from me. I should have known God without that." He would always complain about it.
Ah,
He made a book called the Red Book. That's when he became schizophrenic and everything. So he decided to basically write the Red Book so he can analyze himself, his own mental illness he was going through. That's basically he wrote everything in there of what he was dealing with, his personalities, archetypes, all that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's all I gotta say, man. But hey, thank you for having me on, man.
Oh, my
But yeah,
pleasure.
yeah,
Always welcome,
man.
Nate Dog.
Thank you.
That was Nate Dog. He's headed back to the LBC on a mission just to find Warren G. He's probably on the east side. But it is a pleasure to always have people come on. So thank you, Nate, for bringing that to us. And yeah, some people are going to find themselves in that situation where they're vacillating back and forth, trying to alleviate the hold that Christianity had on them. But you really have to pick a side and move forward in that side. It's a hard thing to do, but it's all about that. You have to let it go. Either let it go or dive deep into it and stay in there. Thank you for becoming a member, Nate. I appreciate the support of the channel. Thank you very, very much. Got to give props out to when people do that. And this is where I can understand this thought process, Christopher. He said in this deconstructing journey, first jumped to Buddhism. I enjoyed it until we began discussing the cycle of rebirth. That's where I really lost touch with Buddhism. And the rebirth part, the whole reincarnation part, is something that makes it um, difficult for some people as well, because the idea of coming back, even though I understand it completely, especially Tibetan, I studied Tibetan Buddhism um, more so than any other style of Buddhism. And in studying that, the idea of returning back and having all these lives that you will never remember until you reach the Buddha mind, it was intriguing, but it wasn't something that I can fully embrace as well. But uh, Buddhism, but if I had to choose between Christianity and Buddhism, I would certainly choose Buddhism over Christianity. But then it was my discovery of the Tao that allowed for me to understand that Buddhism was just a step to get to a higher learning, a higher consciousness. But some people may find that in Buddhism. I didn't. I needed to something more on a higher level of consciousness. Yes, Buddhism was founded in India by Siddhartha Gautama. He first became an ascetic and then realized that being an ascetic did not get you closer to God. And I want you to think about that. many people who become ascetic, they become an ascetic because they say that the more you deny yourself, the more you will get closer to God. They're really just trying to take away their attachments to earthly things, and that's supposed to lead you closer to God. But it was him realizing that it is not detachments to the point where you suffer, but it is detaching where it does not mean so much to you that you give in to your desires. And that's so you can enjoy everything, but just not be attached to anything. And that is one of the reasons why I like the Tao. The Tao was very helpful for me. And what was this? Just start asking questions, see the struggle to answer those questions, or the best is or the best is questions getting answered with questions. Yeah, the more questions you ask, um, you find yourself with more and more questions. You're just simply not going to find an answer in the Bible. And believing in yourself, starting with yourself, finding your own accountability, knowing who you are, and accepting your trueness of who you are. You know, you have to accept the light and the dark and everything in between of who you are. But then have higher conscious judgments on your actions. So from Buddhism, I went into the Taoism, and the Tao gave me a higher level of consciousness. And then from Taoism, Hermeticism. And I'm always looking to elevate my consciousness higher and higher, no matter what the situation is. But if it doesn't, but it's only going to come from within. It's not going to come from anything outside of you. Outside of you is just your observation of seeing what's inside of you. I got my Tibetan singing bowls right over there. Those are wonderful meditation tools. Now, in this particular house with all this echo, if I start that bowl, you can hear it everywhere in this house. Oh, and let me not forget, that helped me elevate my consciousness greatly. Not even gonna lie. So, and I'm not promoting that. Let me be clear. It's not promoting, but yes, that is a great, and you should do it under with support. And you start to realize certain things. You still have to deal with everything in your society, but you don't have to be it. Like, I deal with the fact of I'm perceived as a black man in America, but I don't have to be in my own self and how I see the world and how I interact with the world. I don't have to, for the most part, I don't have to be a black man in America. You know, I can just exist as my consciousness, not as what I'm supposed to be based on what everyone's perception is or the general perception. I don't, and I can detach myself from it. Right? And that is when I'm working within my own self and then how I treat other people and how I deal with situations. Now, I do recognize I get pulled over by a cop, there's a stigma. I start a business, there's a stigma. If I try to get a job right now, there will be a stigma. I deal with those things, but those things are not me. Oh, thank you, Stephanie. I'm sure that has come from myself and everyone else who contributes to this channel. Because I will say we have the best comments on this channel. Nah, he's not here to traumatize you. You hear her say some crazy shit, but he also say a lot of good stuff. But yes, on every pole that you deal with, it's all about elevating and raising your vibration on that pole so that you move more to the higher conscious side of that pole. You know, in the same way that if it's too cold in your house, you turn the heat on so that you have an appropriate temperature of molecule and atoms moving at a higher rate so that you produce heat. It's the same thing how you view race, how you do view gender, how you treat the poor, how you treat the rich, how you treat everybody in between, how you raise your children, how you treat your spouse, all of that. You want to, on each pole, you look for how to raise into a higher consciousness of each pole. And after a while, you fulfill all areas of your life. And then that's when the expansion happens. And then you fulfill all of those things as well and expand again and continue to expand. Yeah. And this is a big thing. It says, Mother was called to thyself, to thyself always say true. You got to be true to yourself. Let me tell y'all, there are certain things about me that if I were to tell you, you'd be like, really? But the fact of the matter is, it's the trueness of who I am. And I live it. I will live it until I either realize otherwise at a higher level or this existence ends. It does with the bowls, but most of the time I have to do it when my wife is not here. Like some of those times when she goes to the store or goes somewhere and I'm here by myself, I will use my bowls because she got like dog ears and she be hearing shit. It be ringing. Uh-oh, Spider-Man. With expansions comes great responsibility. It does. Just always remember your first responsibility will always still be to yourself. You can either spell it with a D or a T, but yes, um, by Lao Tzu. So there are thousands of translations of Lao Tzu's Taoism. It's like 81 sayings, and you really have to take the time to focus in and study on the meaning of each saying. So, like the Taoists say that once you understand the way, and it's getting into the energetic flow of the universe, not fighting against the universe, not fighting against yourself, because you are within yourself, your own universe, but just going with the flow of things, of how they naturally flow. You begin to see the world differently. You care for other people and societies in more of a Taoistic way, meaning that you you lead the people in such a way that they don't even realize that they had a leader and think that they did it on for themselves and that they did it without you and they don't really even they don't need you because you're not there for your own glory, but you're there for just how you are creates glorification in the whole and not centered upon the self, right? And Hermeticism is just understanding how those principles work down to the core of the universe of knowing how to function and putting those thought processes into practical wisdom. So the Tao and Hermeticism really can run side by side for the most part. Uh, and just with Hermeticism, there's a Taoism is just being in the flow of the way or the universe or the frequency. Hermeticism is having a deeper understanding of how that process works. Nope, never heard of John Chan, but check it out. That is a way of thinking about it, that the bowls act like white noise, opening up your mind around you. Yes. It also allows you to center yourself. It's like the bowls get that frequency is surrounding you and you get on level with that frequency. Now, of course, I got the chakra Tibetan bowls. So I got the different bowls for the different chakras, so that when I was working on the process of opening my chakras, and that's just utilizing the system. I'm not saying that's what you should do. I just utilize that particular system to do so, to get my energy points in the right frequency so that I can be conscious of the usage of all of me. And to get over your fears and your guilt and your shame, because there's a focus on those things when you are utilizing those bowls. So like if I would use my root chakra bowl, the idea is that your focus is on your root chakra, which is blocked by fear. And so when I was getting over the fears of life, or different fears that I've had in my life, I focused on that bowl, and it just helps me focus on it. That's it. Yeah, Lao Tzu. Yep. And one of the beautiful things about the Tao, they admit Lao Tzu may have never existed, but it doesn't matter. It's the teachings that they care about. I like Reverend Ike, but Reverend Ike strikes me as one of those who is trying to explain Taoism, Hermeticism, esoteric thought process by using the Bible. Because if you take people too far off of what they know and what they're used to, it's harder to get them to cross over. When you do right, people won't know that you did anything at all. From Futurama, that is actually a Taoistic thought process. Yeah, the bowls are great. Like I said, they're loud as shit in this house, though. They're very loud. Very loud in this house. Matter of fact, let me irritate my wife for a second. So y'all won't think I'm lying. This is my root chakra bowl. Oh, I got the rings on. I'm not sitting in my normal position, but let's see if we can get this. So this is your root chakra. Where you overcome your fears. And it doesn't matter what the fear is. And oftentimes when I was doing this, I would see myself overcoming those fears, or those fears just moving further and further away from me until I can't see them anymore. But the moving further and further away wasn't as beneficial for me as much as me taking more of a marine active mindset to it and conquering those fears. Let me see. So y'all can see how I'm sure Angelina was down there like, oh my gosh. I told you she was gonna have something. But in this house, because it's so echoey, the sound is great in this house. But out of consideration, I always make sure she's not here when I do it. So that, because the way this house is built, when I do that, you can hear it anywhere in this house. What do you mean you've never seen that before? Wow. There are so many, you can find so many practitioners of those online. See? So when we go house hunting in Puerto Rico, I'm gonna have to make sure the house is not as echoey. I realize the conversation I have with my adult son don't bother me. However, it is my brother and others. I like people in their natural. I was raised either stay in a child's place or you shouldn't say that. Hmm. Good, and you should express your truth. I I I always believe that if a person can't respect me for my truth, then why should I stay around them and to respect them for theirs? Like if you can't hear mine, then I don't want to hear yours. So either we keep our relationship here, or we just don't have one. Because family is the people you're with, not the people you were born with. Oh, you can find them online. They're easy to find online. Just follow the link in my description and you can buy. Now I don't sell Tibetan bowls. I should, but I don't. Are you smoking a cigar or are you smoking something else? But yes, family is the people who love you and respect you. Family is not the people that you were born into the same bloodline. It is a very soothing sound. I don't stress out over much of nothing, but um, anytime I have had concern about things, to sit with my bowls and figure out the right bowl that I need to. Like I know if it's anxiety or something like that about a situation, I might use um, my power chakra bowl. You know, so it depends. If it's a heart issue, an emotional issue, I'll use my heart chakra bowl. The zigzag or the Dutch masters. You consumers of the wacky weeders. So what else are we talking about tonight, people? What else are we talking about? What other discussions would you guys like to have? Yes. Now, this is also a good thing to do when you are meditating is to burn incense. I always suggest that you will be mindful of which incense you're choosing for what type of meditation you're focusing on, because certain smells their smells are aromatherapeutic and they do have their frequencies. So I like to burn frankincense and myrrh. I like to burn what is some of the other ones? I'll get the ones that are built for chakras. So I would get those. Mm. Never 440. 440 is a disturbance frequency. Actually, during the German uh, internment camps, they would play 440 frequencies over the loudspeakers to keep the people all messed up. Uh, During when you're trying to interrogate someone through noise interrogation, uh, you play music that is 440, which is a lot of your grunge and heavy metal, things of that nature. 432 is the natural frequency of the earth, but never 440. Yes, dragon's blood, sandalwood, those are good incense to burn. They can be if they are uh, chemically made. And I actually sleep to, we sleep to different frequencies. Like I put on a YouTube frequency and go to YouTube and find one of those sleep meditation ones that don't have words, where it's just like a frequency where it's 832 or 969 or something like that, or 520, 432, and we sleep to those every night. And you can have your instruments tuned to a certain frequency, from my understanding. I've never had it done, but that's what I've been told. So let me split that in there. And these are some of the frequencies that we sleep to, especially the 528, because that's the healing frequency of the earth when it heals itself, and the 963. I said 969, didn't I? 963. But yeah, the cephalogios, those are the ones we sleep to. And sometimes when I don't want to use my bowl, I will play the frequencies during my meditations. Lavender is incredibly relaxing. It will cause your body to go into a more relaxed state. So I do like burning lavender, and lavender keeps mosquitoes away. Nope, you are like my wife then, lawnmower man. She likes. We had, it was raining last night, and she sleeps like a log when it rains. And the night before, when it was thundering, she was really asleep. I like when there's lightning, because lightning ionizes the air and cleanses and causes a more purified vibration in the air. So I sleep well when there's a lightning storm, but not the thunder. Here you go, Renee. Come June 7th, and I'll be 19. What? You better stop that drinking if you 19. That's illegal. If you 18, I can sleep to the rain, but I can't not the thunder. Especially a couple of nights ago, it was thundering so dang on loud. It keep waking me up. You love the rain, but you live in the desert. What desert do you live in that it hasn't rained since July? Oh my gosh, that is a serious drought. I mean, I know Texas has been going through a drought for 2 years. They still get some rain. I've never heard of incense causing cancer. But I do understand what she was saying about some of them are embedded with so many chemicals. So I'm just mindful of where they come from. Oh, okay, Las Vegas. I wish we would have known when we was in Vegas. Uh-oh. Hey,
So,
lady.
hey, how you doing?
Doing all right.
When I talked to you in like December of last year about the frequencies and the sounds and the sound baths, and you said go to YouTube and listen to it like that
Mm-hmm.
because I can't use, the singing bowls and stuff while I'm sleeping. So I did that. And my A1C came down 2 points, 2 or 3 points in 2 weeks. It was
Outstanding.
incredible.
Outstanding.
So thank you for that.
Always a pleasure.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, that's what you came to tell us? I thought she had another story. But that in itself is a wonderful story. Don't get me wrong. That in itself is a wonderful story. It's so much, people don't realize how much illness is caused by stress and anxiety and things of that nature. Your body responds to frequencies. Um, I don't care what some of the American scientists say about Matsumoto's experiments with frequencies. Just because it's an American scientist, don't make them right. But I'm telling you, there is everything in the universe is on a frequency, and we just have to align ourselves with the right frequencies. And when you combine getting rid of stress with frequencies, and then the frequencies of the food that you eat, we was having me and my wife was having this conversation about what people buy, and she went to Hub today. If you live in Texas, the only damn grocery store they have is Hub. I know they call it HEB, but it's freaking Hub. And she was remarking about how these people who are in the worst health situations already, and they're buying all this processed food. Do you think that processed food is vibrating at a uh, higher level that is not vibrating at like 440? Of course it is. It's not at 174. It's not at 432 or no. It's vibrating at the worst levels. So when you eat right, exercise, de-stress, your body responds in a healthier framework. No, I hate. I don't hate Hell. I hate every store actually. I don't like shopping. Period. But oh, that Hell. It's too many people. Yeah, and I'm sorry for your loss, boss lady. But if you keep doing A and B, your result keep being C. You might need to try DEF so you can get E. You know, I'm laughing at my description, not what she's saying. You gotta try something different. Really, there's no hell in El Paso. You know, I don't remember seeing one, but I wasn't necessarily looking when we was there. But you are blessed not to have to deal with hell. Although their hot food bar is pretty damn good. They got something thing there that I can't remember what it's called, but it's good. But most things are loaded with tons of sugar and processed sugar and chemicals and all those things, and they're just destructive to your life, to your body. And then all that dead meat is just too much. Oh, you're from San Antonio. Yeah, the Lackland area, behind Lackland, between Lackland and whatever the towns are out that way, Huncho and all that, they have built up so much stuff out there. But it's too bad, Teresa, you're going to, did you switch to YouTube? I guess so. Going to El Paso. Should be coming to San Antonio. Said Rogan. Look, this is so crazy, but you probably would be better off eating roadkill than you would most of the meats that's sold in grocery stores. We went to some park and we saw a possum. That possum is eating natural stuff in this natural park and drinking cleaner water than the meat that you're going to get in the store. Even though I'm not eating possum, it's probably better to eat that possum than it would be to eat what's in the grocery stores. Now, my grandfather used to eat that shit. I ain't. But it would be. I'd rather have fruits and vegetables than eat meat. My biggest problem is that Angelina cooks so damn well. It's almost like I should have found. I should have. My health, my health was better when I dated people who didn't cook as well. Now I wouldn't trade her for those people, not even slightly, but I'm just saying. What? You putting bleach on the food? No. One thing I've been amazed at, there's so many freaking deer in Texas just running around. We went up to Groom and New Brunsville, and they just got deer just walking around neighborhoods like they live there. Just deer everywhere. They got walk around money with deer. But I'd rather just not eat meat. She's reduced her meat cooking greatly since we've been together, so I give her props. Where about in Georgia are you, Q? I always like to ask where people are, especially in places that I frequent. But I've gotten she hears me and doesn't cook as much meat as she used to cook, so my health is improving. Still got a baby keg I'm working on. Oh, you saying that it's an old store trick to keep meat to themselves? Okay, gotcha. Oh, all right, cute. See you in May. I see you in May. We're gonna see. We're gonna see how many people in the Atlanta area will show up when we're in Atlanta for a couple of days in May. See, a good burger for me would be once a month or something like that. I'm not going to completely cut it out, but like once a month. And I don't eat a lot of bread. Don't really eat a lot of bread at all. Especially that bleached white bread. That's not good for you. Uh, let's see. So we're gonna fly to Puerto Rico on the 15th out of Atlanta. So we'll probably get there like the 13th or something like that. So probably like whether it be like the 13th, 14th, probably the 13th or 14th of May, like a Monday or Tuesday or something like that. We might even get there earlier. We don't know yet. We don't have a clock to punch anywhere, so we might go early because I definitely got to see the girls. Got to see all the girls. Thank you for being here, Junie. some of the best health I've ever been in is when I was a strict vegetarian. When I was a strict vegetarian, I had a nice little 4-pack going, and I wasn't even exercising that much. But I had a nice little 4-pack going. I didn't have as much, my limbs felt better. Didn't have as much pain like in my shoulders and my knees and ankles and my back. Uh, some of that is just going to be because of the degeneration of bone from, military lifestyle. But I was feeling great when I was a vegetarian, when I was a strict vegetarian. And when I was a vegetarian, even the pastas, if it wasn't a natural pasta, I didn't eat it. If it was any processed pasta, I didn't eat it. Processed breads, I didn't eat it. I would go to like the bakeries where they made their own stuff from, unprocessed, not that processed flours and all that kind of thing. And I would get vegetables that were grown without. You're gonna have some pesticides, even the natural pesticides, but the least amount of chemical pesticides as possible. Oh, so we make I say we. Angelina makes she the cayenne pepper and lemon. I know it's cayenne pepper, is lemon. There's some other stuff that's in there. We started drinking that. We were drinking it we started in the morning, then we would start drinking at night, and we're back to mornings because drinking that stuff at night. But it's some kind of cayenne pepper that they got here in Texas that she got. Whoo! It's one of those where you drink it and you got to slap something, like you slapping the table, you slapping something, because that's strong. But it's very good for inflammation, very good for, hey, fellas, it's very good for blood flow, but it's very good for inflammation and all this other stuff. It's good for your heart, good for your blood pressure. It has a lot of good things in there for you. I didn't see anybody named Moss on here, so I'm thinking you meant Boss. But no, I don't eat seafood. Uh, that is probably the biggest difference between me and Angelina on our diet. Her being a coastal Carolina girl, she eats all the seafood. I do not eat them. And every time she put them, and I say it to her, every time she put them sea roaches on her plate, I be like, mm. Oh, sea moss. Yes, sea moss is great. If now we had some sea moss, ooh, it tasted like you was drinking the ocean. But sea moss is good. Yes, the cayenne pepper is good for your arthritis as well. Beets is good, but oh my gosh. I don't care what you put in there, you're gonna taste them damn beets. Mm-hmm. Shrimp are the little brown German roaches. Crabs and lobsters, those are the big old, them the big water bug cockroaches. What? We take soursop extract every day. And when we move to Puerto Rico, if the house doesn't already have a tree, a soursop tree, I'm gonna grow one. Soursop is great. That is a superfood like a champ. How do you not like soursop? It's like a sweet fruit. It's great. Maybe you're thinking jackfruit. Maybe you're thinking jackfruit, which jackfruit is good too. But soursop, exactly. It is one of the strongest cancer fighters out there. I love some soursop. You sure you don't mean jackfruit, boss lady? I can see if you're saying jackfruit. But jackfruit is good for, like, let's say you, for like a pulled pork or pulled chicken or pulled beef flavoring. It can mimic that texture. So you can make a lot of things with jackfruit, and jackfruit is great for you. It just be mindful of all the sauces that you put on there, because the different sauces, of course, are going to increase your salt intake, and you get to have too much. Yes, soursop is Jamaican. Well, when I move to Puerto Rico, I can grow it there. Soursop, it's the same kind of region. Yes, you need to taste it again. I don't understand how you don't like soursop. Mm-hmm. Jackfruit barbecue. You got somebody who know how to make it right. It's some good stuff. It's great for replacing chicken, pork, and steak, beef. I can't stand mushrooms in that format, so I don't know. I just can't. Like, you can't don't put mushrooms on my plate. The other kind of mushrooms, take them things, grind them up, put them in a whole thing of applesauce. Good to go. But just putting mushrooms on my plate, we're not doing that. Mm-mm. Oh, you should try jackfruit, especially any kind of barbecue jackfruit is really good. It's a great replacement for meat, and you get that same texture, but you don't get that heaviness. And the jackfruit is actually good for you, where the uh, other stuff is not. You know what? I don't want to talk. All that other meat is just not good for you. Like, you can find you a good vegetarian restaurant, boss lady. I'm pretty sure they got one in Vegas. I have no idea where in Vegas you are, but um, I don't even know where you would go. But I'm pretty sure they got a good. That you'll find somebody who's making jackfruit barbecue. It'll be good. Yeah, and exactly. It doesn't make you crash. You don't get that. You know, like when you get the itis from all that chicken and beef and pork. Mm-hmm. You gotta think about it. Food, all that dead food, it loses its. First of all, meats are just so dead by the time you get to them. Vegetables, if you overheat them, put too much heat to them, you're killing off the vegetables as well. So you try to eat them as raw as possible. Like, maybe they flashed in the pan for, you know, less than a minute, just to get them a little softer and a little heat on them. And you might put a little sauce on them or some seasonings, and put a little oil in the pan, a little olive oil, and your vegetables, and you're good to go. And you're keeping them at that higher energetic feel. Yeah. Now my fruits definitely raw, and some of the vegetables I'll eat raw. Like the pumpkin seeds, the carrots, broccoli. Even though broccoli is kind of a weird plant, but although I give me one of them big ass vegetable trays and I go to town on it. When Angelina first met me, you would come into the cigar lounge and you would see, if I was eating, I would have a big ass vegetable and fruit tray next to me, and that's all I would be eating. And then I tasted her food. My downfall. My downfall. Yep. Instead of lettuce, I would put spinach. I would eat spinach instead of lettuce. Yeah, and it just makes sense to put living things in a living body. You don't see even for the carnivores, they won't. If something's been dead for too long, they won't eat it. They got to kill it then, eat it then. But they don't eat dead things. And when the animals that are herbivores, they eat the grass. They eat living things. But you think about how they feed animals in most of these stalls. They're eating dead hay, pellets, all these pellets and of CDs and all this stuff that's been dead for a while. But if left to their own devices, these animals would go out and forage and eat natural. They wouldn't be eating all this crap. Now, when you say man-made with the broccoli and the corn, they're still grown from the earth. So when you say man-made, do you mean like they took two other plants, crossbreeded them, and all that kind of stuff to create broccoli? Because I don't see that as much of a problem. If there's a seed that is planted in the ground and it grows from that seed, now the seed has been Monsanto's, that could be a problem because the seed itself is genetically enhanced. Right, you're saying it's a hybrid. If it's a natural hybrid, I don't mind. It's the chemically enhanced hybrids that I have a problem with. Mm. We was just talking about him today, of how they did him dirty. But yes, um, his dietary requirements, his dietary programs, I do like his. Not saying you should go do it, because they ain't gonna get me like they ain't gonna get me like they got him. Now I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm far from it. I smoke my cigars. I have a soda every now and then. I love my coffee, and I don't drink it black. So I'm never gonna be perfect, but I do what I can. And that's what it's all about, just doing the best that you possibly can do. And then going beyond your comfort zone. Like, because some people will take their best, will say that their best is within their comfort zone, but your best is actually outside of your comfort zone. So definitely want to go outside of that. Ooh, I've heard of this, never had it. And actually, I heard of a tea today. What was it called? Husk? A husk tea? But I think it's illegal. And that's the thing. You can eat your way out of most health situations. And I'm gonna say most because depending upon where you are and what you have access to, you may not be able to eat your way out of everything. I think if I had something incredibly serious that was going on, I would definitely be more conscientious of it. And if it was so dire, I would do whatever I had to do to get to a country where I could eat the most holistic I possibly could. Yeah, I'm not there yet. There's some harmful things I still put in my body. There's still a few harmful things, but I try to control how often it happens. Now, does mushroom coffee do what the mushrooms do? No, and doctors don't know about nutrition. Most of them they just know about surgeries and pills. Mm. You know, I never caught COVID. Never got it. Um, when they was first talking about it, like 6 months before it really got hit big, I was loading up on elderberry and soursop and jackfruit and the dark berries. I was still very much a vegetarian at that time frame. Well, I was a vegetarian at the time frame. I was loading up because I was like, whatever this shit is, it ain't gonna bother me. I'm not dealing with it. What you smoking, boss lady? What you smoking? Sessic, Sessic tea, Sessic tea. I just heard it. I don't know how to spell it. I know it's combining two different things to make this tea. I gotta research it and find out what the hell it is because it's supposed to give you a good trip. And I love doing some meditation and then allowing my mind to expand. Oh, the reefer. Okay, I ain't gonna put you out there on full blast, but I got you. I would say that when it comes to, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry that he died from COVID. When it comes to the Mary Jane, I don't have a problem with people who smoke it. I have a problem when it controls a person. Anything that controls you is where the problem comes. And then the few times that in my adult life that I've had the Mary Jane, it has always been the same reason I utilize mushrooms to expand my mind. But I really can't stand the smell of the Mary Jane, the smell of it dry. And I know some people can't stand the smell of cigars. So just take it in the same way. I can't stand the smell of Mary Jane, just like some people can't stand cigars. Hmm. You're gonna say when you find out, let you know, but never mind. I love tea. Uh, mm. No, this is supposed to be like a tea that for about 30 minutes, and it's even though it's mind opening, it's also supposed to allow for you to de-stress and relax. Hmm. Even though I started smoking cigars long before I developed PTSD, well, not long before, actually, it was right around the same time, actually. But the cigars weren't. I didn't start smoking cigars because of the PTSD. It was because I was dealing with a guy and kind of like made me smoke a cigar for the first time. But I was smoking a pipe before the PTSD, and I've always found it relaxing. Oh, boss lady, you don't know what you missed. You know what? You might know. You don't do nothing. Don't just stay away. Stay away. Stay away. I've seen hemp coffee. Hemp is actually good. I like the fact that hemp has helped a lot of people deal with anxieties, deal with PTSD, deal with other medical issues. So I do like that. Now, I've never read up on that, but it sounds interesting. If the smell of cannabis is not a part of it, it's probably something that would be very interesting. Just the smell. It's the smell. Well, I like being in control. You're more dangerous sober. True. But I like opening my mind. What is CPTSD? I know what PTSD is. I've never seen CPTSD. That might have just been you. My YouTube's been working fine all day. Complex PTSD. Okay. So would that be like PTSD from multiple things? Or, yeah, I just never heard of it. You ain't got to explain it on here. I'll look it up afterwards. I've just never heard of it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call it a night. It's an early one, well, it's not early. It's actually on time. All those 2.5 hours shows y'all been getting, that's been extra. We're going to go ahead and call it a night tonight. It was a good lesson. We see more of how this God is being more genocidal in his manner, and that it doesn't match up to history in Joshua 10 and 11. But I love the fact that we had a great health communication tonight, because I like talking about different things as well, health being one of them. So I appreciate everybody for being here, everybody who has supported the channel directly financially. I appreciate you, all the new members, and thank you, Nick Dahl, for becoming a new member of the YouTube page. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And my wife's channel is Really Did You Know? But she also has another one called Eat, Sip, and Smoke Travels. So Really Did You Know? And Eat, Sip, and Smoke Travels are her two channels. So this concludes our lives for this week. We come back live again on Monday, where we're going to talk about polygamy and polygamy in the Bible. Is it right or wrong? As well as then just a general discussion on polygamy, the pros and cons, and that sort of thing. And hopefully I'll be able to get a guest on Monday. I don't know yet if the guest is going to come, but I have to check with them again, and we'll go from there. So I appreciate everybody. Always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.